How does lightning form? Does it strike up or down? There are many outdated explanations still scattered among weather sites, vlogs, and whatnot, exacerbating misunderstandings about lightning. Over the decades, I've seen lightning do some freaky stuff. In this video, we're going to explore and explain the weird world of lightning. Thunderstorms have the ability to separate pools of positive and negative charges in and around them, thus creating powerful electric fields. Lightning is born between two oppositely charged regions, as a network of electrically conductive channels called leaders materialize and begin to tunnel a path through the poor conductive air in between. Think of leaders as a sort of jumper cable. The leaders branch out in two directions, each with opposite polarities toward both regions in an attempt to neutralize the charge separation. Most lightning flashes occur within the storm and are called cloud flashes, or intra-cloud lightning. But when one end of the bidirectional leader network connects to the ground or object on the ground, we call it a ground flash, or cloud-to-ground lightning, CG for short. In the most common CGs, a negatively charged step leader approaches the ground. The electric field between the step leader and the ground strengthens to the point that an oppositely charged positive leader begins reaching up, bridging the gap between the two. More than one upward leader may initiate an attempt to connect with the downward leader. However, the first to reach a downward propagating step leader will suddenly complete a channel path through the resisting air for the flow of powerful electrical current between the earth and cloud. Electrons then rapidly accelerate down the channel, causing extreme heating and the brightest flash of the event. This is the return stroke. In rare photographs, you can see failed upward connecting leaders that didn't reach the downward leader first, and thus terminating into the air. The leader's return stroke and all the complex components of a lightning event is simply called a flash. The air around lightning becomes so hot that it explodes as a supersonic shock wave that transitions to an acoustic wave within a few meters. This rapid expansion of air molecules creates sound waves that radiate outward about 1 mile every 5 seconds. The sound we hear is thunder. In this clip, at 2,000 frames per second, you'll notice two distinct types of leaders with different behavior. You can see the positive end of a leader scouting a pathway through the air, but notice the flickering segments that follow. These leaders form on the decayed segments of highly branched positive leaders and are referred to as recoil leaders. Cloud-to-ground lightning strikes are characterized as positive or negative, depending on the net charge a bolt shifts to the ground. If a negative leader with a surplus of negatively charged electrons connects with the ground, negative charge, primarily in the form of free electrons, is shifted toward the ground, and the ground gains negative charge, and so we call this flash a negative CG. Inversely, if a positive leader with a deficit of electrons connects with the ground, an induced surplus of electrons in the ground travel up the channel, shifting negative charge away from the ground up into the storm. The ground gains a net positive charge, so we call this a positive CG. Sometimes you'll hear storm chasers and meteorologists identify negative CGs or positive CGs in the field. So how can they tell the difference, and why does it matter? For starters, if directly struck, one could kill you, and the other will likely kill you. It's difficult to be 100% sure eyeballing them, but many positive CGs and negative CGs have visibly different behavior that you can see. Often after a negative CG return stroke, multiple other return strokes follow, causing the main channel to flicker. This is called a multi-stroke CG flash. Check out this multi-stroke CG actually sailing in strong winds. The strobing effect is partly due to the orientation of the charged regions in the storm. Most negative CGs initiate between a mid-level negatively charged region and a smaller positive charged region near the base of the storm. But the return stroke of typical positive CGs rarely flicker. Many occur in a positive pool higher in the thunderstorm and the ground. Because of the greater distance the leaders have to blaze through the resisting air, the return stroke of these positive CGs is often much hotter, brighter, and longer in duration. The peak charge in positive CGs can be 10 times more powerful than a typical negative CG and thus considerably more dangerous. These are generally the most powerful CGs, reaching temperatures up to 30,000 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 5 times hotter than the surface of our sun. Positive CGs only account for about 5 to 10% of all ground flashes worldwide, but in Tornado Alley, they are an atypically common sight. I tend to see them just downstream of strong storm updrafts. Many of these positive CGs have a strange, smooth, and fluid channel near the ground due to a lack of branching in strong positive leaders. We refer to this as smooth channel lightning. The visible flash is often just the channel without any branching leaders, and so it's sometimes referred to as branchless lightning. But be assured, there is leader branching. It's just hidden in the clouds aloft. Sometimes a bolt of lightning can leap miles away from a storm, jolting earthlings with surprise. We call this a bolt from the blue. Outdated paradigms suggested these clear air channels leaping out the back of storms were positive in polarity. But the latest research using lightning mapping and high-speed cameras have shown most of these startling zaps are indeed negative. If you capture a bolt from the blue and it has a lot of branching, chances are it was a negative CG instead of a positive.
Now that you know some different characteristics of positive and negative ground flashes, see if you can tell if these CGs are likely positive or negative. It's pretty easy to see these differences in slow motion. Now let's see if your eyes are quick enough to tell the difference in real time.
Sometimes storms grow upscale into massive complexes stretching across states. These systems have horizontally layered charge regions that serve as the conduit for lightning to travel over 100 kilometers. Check out these massive horizontal flashes. If these horizontally extensive flashes connect to the ground, they are almost always positive in polarity. They transfer huge amounts of charge and cause abrupt changes in the electric field, which can trigger another flash in a sort of domino effect. Upward lightning travels up from tall objects on the ground into the storm, and usually always have upward propagating positive leaders. Frequently, these upward leaders will produce spectacular flickering from recoil leaders developing on decaying positive branches. This is also called ground-to-cloud lightning. Almost all upward moving flashes are triggered by a nearby lightning flash, either when leader activity or a return stroke occurs close enough to the tall object, causing an abrupt change in the electric field.
So if someone asks you, does lightning strike up or down? The answer is both. If they ask you how lightning works, just change the subject.
Not only can massive horizontal ground flashes trigger upward lightning, They can act as the parent flashes, triggering red sprites high above the thunderstorm in the mesosphere. Now that you have a general understanding of how lightning works and how one lightning flash can trigger another, it'll be much more simple to understand red sprites.
Ooh, yeah! That's right! Yes! Beautiful! I called.
Guys, I know there's a lot of health and economic concern out there right now and no shortage of scary headlines. I'm going to do my best to keep doing what I do as safely as I can, and maybe at the very least I'll be able to provide some of you guys with a temporary distraction from the anxiety until this all blows over by showing you scary tornadoes. In my next video, we plan to showcase some incredible red sprites and discuss how these and other transient luminous events work. Until next time, friends, happy trails.